Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Extreme Gundam option set from Robot Damashii, or Robot Spirits. As you can see here, there's no window on the packaging, so I can show you that really quickly, and you can see the two different versions. Where is it? There it is. The two different phases, the Eclipse and the Agios, or Agios, I don't know, I never played the game. And then you can also do the full burst mode, which we can combine everything together. And if you remember from our review of the Extreme Gundam himself, he comes with the Xenon phase. So we have 3 phases in total, plus the base model, which is that right there. There's the Xenon phase. Then we have the one with wings, the one with guns, and then the one where you mix all that crap together. So here he is. Here's the Extreme Gundam. We already looked at this guy, so we're not going to spend any time really looking at him in particular. Now, what you're supposed to do, what they say, and what is actually technically right, is you're supposed to break him down to the complete bare bones. This is how he comes in the package. So I am going to, off camera, take off all this good stuff and put him back down to the base Leos model. We're not going to have any of the Xenon phase parts. Alrighty, so we have him down into the base suit. There's no extra stuff on. Even we left the backpack off. Everything is down to the bare minimum. And now we get to start adding all of this good stuff. As if he didn't have enough parts already, we have even more. Now the cool thing about this set is, obviously, like I said, you can combine it all to make one super mode, or you can mix and match however you want. I'm not, like I said, I never played the game, and I have looked at the instructions, so I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% sure as to like if the chest piece goes on for both modes or not. I believe it's only for the wing version, not for the gun version, or phase. But like I said, I might get 1 or 2 pieces off, but you can still see what parts come with the kit and where they go and how that all works. I should have opened this off camera. That was probably really noisy for you guys. Okay, so the first thing we want to do for the gun mode is to add the new side skirts. And of course you can do this in any order you like. I'm just doing it the way I feel like doing it. So you do want to be a little bit careful. They're probably not going to break. They're made fairly well and they're designed for this. But like I said, do use some caution. Alright, so now we have to put on these bad boys. And how these function is this goes all the way back and that goes like that. And that's how you're supposed to put it. Obviously you can have it in the relaxed straight down, but to make it look cool you're supposed to have them back like that. I think, unless it goes the other way. Uh-oh, I already done goofed. No, I'm right. I'm just kidding around. Alright. So they just pop on. It's just a standard little ball peg, no big deal. And they seem really big and clunky, but don't worry, he's going to get bigger and clunkier. But it's a good kind of big and clunky. You will be able to tolerate it. Don't worry, be happy. Hakuna Matata. Alrighty. So we get those on, and the side skirts, get on there. Okay, so the side skirts are on. We're not going to really worry about positioning yet. We'll just leave them closed up. Okay, then the next thing we're going to have to do is the shoulders. The shoulders have to come off, and this is a little bit trickier, a little bit scarier for me. I'm always afraid the shoulder peg, not the peg, but the clip that holds the shoulder piece on is going to break. And then also, while you're dealing with the shoulders, be extra cautious of the head. You don't want to break off the crown. This guy's crown is super fragile. So use a lot of caution when handling the shoulder pads. And there's really not a great way to get this off safely. Just be very careful. You can see how small that little clip is. That's what you're dealing with. Alright, so now we want to put on these big shoulder pads. And that's how they look standard. They just clip on using the same type of little bar. And this piece here has a double hinge mechanism. There's darn cat hair floating around. Alright, so this piece here, you can put it out like that, bring it down. It moves around however you want to do it. And this piece here, the gold part can slide out. So you can do that, and then lastly, well not lastly, almost lastly, it spins around forward. And the reason it does that, and then you can snap it back down into place a little bit, and the reason it does that is it has guns that come out. And the thing about the guns, when you pull it out it looks like that. But that's not right. What you have to do is get this big part, the thicker part, to go back without taking the narrower part with it. And that is a huge pain in the rear because the narrower part almost always wants to slide back with it. So you have to be really careful. But that's what the shoulder pad's gonna look like. We'll put this one on like this, and then I'll put the other one on sideways still so you can see, and then I'll put the guns forward once it's already on. Come on, get on there. See, it's scary putting these parts on just because the parts are so little and they fit together so snugly. I'm gonna do it this way just to give me a little bit better force. Hopefully I can just pop that on without breaking anything. Alright, I'm gonna pop that on off camera just because I don't want to ruin the figure. Okay, we've got the shoulder pad on after a few minutes of trying and figuring out a good way to do it without ruining everything. So that's what it's going to look like when it's facing forward. It is, like I said, it gets really bulky, but once it's all done, it won't look too bulky. It'll look balanced out, and it'll look awesome. So don't fret. We're going to be okay. It's going to be all right. So we got to pop this shoulder pad off again, just like the other side. Give it a little wiggle. Come on. These ones are plastic, I want to point out. The white shoulder pads are plastic pegs, so I'm a little more worried about those as I'm taking them off. But they should come off without breaking. Oh my goodness, this guy is super tight. This is the first time I'm doing this, so that might be why it's so tight. Alright, and then these ones are metal, so you don't have to worry quite as much, and I figured out that the best way to do it is to just bring the arm all the way out like that. And you can see that there's no real gap down here, so you can press down pretty hard without worrying about breaking it. There's no gap in the joint. So what you want to do is bring the arm all the way out, line this up, and then just press into the armpit. And you should be able to snap it in. It takes some force, but you should be able to get it in without breaking anything. So that's how the shoulder pads look off to the side. So they're really cool. You can get the idea like that. So you go ahead and spin them all around. Bring that part down, bring this part forward. Alright. And again, you have to get the thick part back without the little part going back. Super difficult to do. I don't know why they couldn't figure out a better way to do that, but that's really my only complaint with this guy. It's not that big of a deal once you do it a couple times, but it is frustrating. Alright, so we have the guns in place, we have the shoulder pads in place, and now we can add, and these fold up so you can bring his arms forward. And you can bring his arms forward because he's got two humongous rifles. And these are really cool, and they can connect. You can see all the detail throughout these guys. Really awesome looking. So they just peg together like this, similar to the Strike Freedom and a few others. Or is it Wing Zero? Actually, no, Strike Freedoms go front to back, Wing Zeros go side to side. So that's how that goes. And he comes with, because the original kit for the, not kit, but the parts that came with the Leos didn't have gun hands, so he comes with gun hands in the options, so you can put his gun hands on. They are just like all the other hands you get, so we'll go ahead and do that. And I don't know if I'm going to put the guns actually in his hands, because that I have done, and it gets really crowded, but I think we can give it a shot. Try not to eat up too much time in this review since there's so much stuff to go over. Alrighty, let's put that on there. So we've got some gun hands now, and I don't know how well he's going to be able to do this. Also, one thing I don't really care for is that you can't really have him hold the gun and have these shoulder pads guns facing forward at the same time. So what I like to do is just put everything back to the way it goes originally. Peg everything in place, put his shoulder pads down and back, just to clean them up a little bit, because you don't need the cannon sticking up into the sky. I don't really care for that. So we're going to put everything back into place. And again, this is all up to you. You do it however you want. You can bring those down if you want to. It's up to you. I just like to line up the gold parts. And then you can give him his super awesome guns. It's probably easier, at least for me anyway, it's easier to have him hold them individually and then snap them together. I have the wrong one. The fingers are a softer material, so they should allow you to get the gun in there without breaking anything. Alright, so we've got one gun in. And then we're going to do the other, and then you can line them up, and he looks right down the barrels, right down the iron sights, although I'm sure they don't really have iron sights. Gundanium sights. How about that? How about that? There we go. Let's just pop the hand off and put it back on. Alright. Get back in there. Alright, guns are together. Of course, you don't have to put them together. Like I've said, you can do this however you want. Whatever works for you is good, because who's playing with the figure? You are. I'm just showing you what they want you to do, or what they tell you to do. So now you've got the two guns. And I don't know, like I said, I never played the game. It's really right up in his face. So personally, I'm not a huge fan of this phase, the gun phase, by itself. I like to mix the two and give yourself the full burst mode, but I don't like to use both of these big guns unless they're separated, just because, like I said, they get right up in his face. So that's the Eclipse, I believe. Yeah. Unless it's the Agios. That's the Eclipse. Losing my mind here, people. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to break all this down, and we're going to do it again with the other stuff, and then we'll combine the two at the end. Before we put on the wing set, all those parts and cool pieces, what I wanted to tell you is that I forgot to mention two things for the Eclipse phase. And those aren't, well, one thing is a parts thing, and one thing is just a technique thing. The first thing, I don't know why I didn't remember this, probably because I only got 2 hours of sleep. These spin independently, so you can really get some cool posing done however you like it. If you want to drop those down like that to look kind of more like pauldrons, whatever you want to do, these little fin pieces function independently, so you can get some really cool poses done if you want to. Then the other thing I wanted to mention, which is also involving these shoulder pads, is that if you're having a whole lot of trouble getting those on like I was, what you can do is just pop the arm off. It's fairly easy, fairly low risk. It's just a standard little peg, and then you can really just manipulate the shoulder pad however you want to, pop them off a little easier, and then, like I said, it's just a little peg, and you can just pop that right back on. I wouldn't recommend doing it over and over again and eventually loosening this joint right here, but you can do that. Okay, so let me get this guy's hands back on and his side skirts, and then we will put on the wings. Alrighty, so we have him back in the Leo standard base model form, and now we have some things we need to do. What you're going to do is you're not going to use any of the upgrade parts that come with him, like the red crotch piece or the legs or the forearms or anything, until just inhaled some dust, until you want to do like the full-on thing. So for this, we just have to do a little bit of swapping out. We have to pull out these, and these are just ball pegs like the side skirts. So we pull out the front skirts. They shouldn't be too difficult to pop out. And then these pop in, and these are really nice. I like these because they have the clear yellow on them, and it just looks extra fancy. It does, like I said, it does get bulky, but once you get it posed, it looks really awesome and is totally worth it. Totally worth the bulk. So just pop these on. As you can see, there's really no trick to it. Pretty simple. Just a little bit of force. Make sure you don't bend the little peg as you're doing it. And then we're going to actually pop off this back piece, which doesn't normally come off. They made it so that it can, though, which is good because it needs to. So you can lift it off by the little tab at the bottom and then pull back on that. It'll pop off. You see the two little pegs. And we have to put this piece on. If I can get it out of the tray. Alright, so this piece pops on. Where's the other piece? I dropped a piece. So let me find the other piece, and give me 1 second here. Sorry guys, like I said earlier, I'm losing my mind here. I haven't had much sleep. So you don't want to pop this whole thing off. You just need to make sure this piece is on, if it wasn't already on. If you just had the white piece on, because these can separate like that. If you only have the white piece on, you want to put this piece on and it just pegs in like the shoulder pads, or tabs in, whatever you want to say. So make sure that piece is on. Come on. Alright, that's good enough for the sake of the review. And then this one just kind of latches over it, as far as I know. I haven't put this one on before. So line that up. If you're doing it in the camera, make sure you can see what you're doing. And I can't, so I'm just going to pop it off and do it. Alright, so what you want to do is tab that in like that, and it should, there we go. It creates a larger back piece down here, and this red part is the flap now. Alright, so then the white part still holds it in place, and we are good to go. As soon as we get that back on, I can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Alright, so that's pretty cool. Gives them a little extra bulk in the back to balance out the front. You don't want to have junk in the front without junk in the trunk. Haha, okay, like I said, no sleep. Alright, next thing we want to do is pop off the chest piece, which is a little, again, it's a little scary, just because of the frailty, the fragility of the parts. So you want to probably just stick your thumbnail in behind this clear yellow piece up here and pry it forward, and it'll come out. But just look how tiny and small and clear plasticky those pegs are. Do not break those. Do as best you can to not break those. And now we have a new chest piece to go on, and it goes on like this, and pegs in using the same two little peg holes. So make sure you line that up just like that. Now he's got a buffed up, bulked up chest, which is pretty cool looking. I like that. Does have a little tab tree cut there, but what are you going to do? It's not perfect. Okay, so that's it for the bulk of the body. One thing I want to point out is we have a replacement piece for, if I can grab it, gosh, can't ever get this stuff out of the tray. Always keep a knife handy or some tweezers or something. That way you don't have to dump out the whole tray to get to stuff. Alright, so what you can see here is a replacement piece for the unbuffed forearm, and that just swaps out just like you would expect, like that. And that is so that you can use the shield, and that just tabs in the, I mentioned earlier there was one thing I didn't like, and I said it, but there's a second thing which I just remembered, and that is that the shield does not have a spinning function. You can't rotate it on the forearm. That's a little frustrating, but it is still a really cool shield, because if you don't like it like that, you don't want to pop that off. The shield is actually transformable. You could leave it like that, but you probably don't want to do that. You want to either make it short like that, and it works on these tabs right there. See how these are sticking out a little farther than these? Or you can have it the extended way. So you can do it either way, and that just tabs into this piece. And I know what you're thinking. Well, what if we want to use the big buffed up arm pads instead of these little wimpy ones? Well, we'll get to that. So that's how you want to use the shield, with the little wimpy arm pads. But we're going to leave that off for now and put on the regular ones just to keep it out of the way. Okay, now let's look at the guns before we get to the wings, the grand finale. We have one gun in this mode, which is similar to these, just not quite as jacked up. So it's basically the same gun without this front piece on it, and a little bit smaller in the back. But that's okay, and he can hold it just like the other one, so I'm not going to bother putting it in his hand right now, but we'll get to that. It has this clear piece that goes on like this, and that just slides over. But you don't want to use that without using the other parts. So that takes us to the wings. Let's look at the wings. Now, for the wings, you have to do something to the backpack. And that is to pop that off. It just slides right out the back. And you slide in this new piece, which goes forward. You're going to want to, it's going to look like it goes this way. Just because of the shape, it does not. It goes forward like that. So that you have this nice big tab on the back. Right there. Alright, and then this tabs into the bottom tab and the top tab, because these wings are humongous. They're bigger than the figure. So that's going to tab in like that, and we'll do that in a second so you can see. But before we do that, let's actually take a look at what we have for the wings. They're kind of big. They're very reminiscent of the Freedom Gundam, which I like. Those are some of my favorite wings on all of the winged Gundams. So you can fold them back like that. They look cool. I'll show you what they look like on the figure. Just as far as showing you what they can do, they have a swivel, right there, and it's the same on both sides. And then it can bend that way and that way, so you can bring them forward if you want to open them up and like flap them forward. And then they have this really cool hinge, which can extend them all the way out. That red one is a hinge there. There's like a pivot there and at this main joint. So you can bring them up and fold them down to raise them up and tuck them in a little bit. It's really stiff, but that's good. So you can do it like that, or you can stretch them out, bring them down. Whatever you want to do, you can really get the poseability in there. These little wings just fold straight out, and if you take them all the way out, the gaps are pretty close. You're going to need to adjust them a little bit, but if you put them all the way out, they should pretty much line up the way you want. Let's see if this side does it. It did it the first time, but maybe that was just pure luck. Yeah, see how they're all the way extended, so they pretty much line up right, so that's okay. But of course, if you wanted to, you can spread them out more. That's fine. And now we have the rest of the wings, and it's intended to put them to their maximum position. So if you're worried about lining them up right, don't be. It'll do it for you pretty much. All you have to do is figure out the pattern. You want the front one being the part that's on the side of the tabs, all the way up in the front. Unless I'm not remembering correctly. Maybe that one goes down. No, that one goes sorry, up. Guys. Like I said, losing my mind here. So that's what it's going to look like when it's out. And I'll just show you why I was having a problem. So you bring the front one all the way up. Then you just split the other ones. I don't know what I was thinking. I already did this, actually, and I just forgot. So sorry about that. So you just spread everything else out, and you can adjust them a little bit here and there. But if you put everything to its maximum position, it'll put the wings out where they belong, and you don't have to really worry about making it look good. It'll take care of that for you. And then you can adjust it through that red hinge that I told you about. You can adjust which way you want them to go, but as you can see, putting them all the way to their maximum position everywhere should get them where you want them, just about. Alright, so that's the wings. We'll put them on in a second. I told you about the gun, so we want to go back to that. You have these white tabs on this clear piece. And what that is you have these pieces that are similar to the Strike Freedom's wings, which I'm guessing that's where this came from. You have 4 of these throughout. You have 2 on either side. I guess I'll just pop them off and show you. So you can get some display stands and have these held up like they show in the production artwork for the figure. But if you don't want to do that, if you want to make the cool gun instead, which I might recommend, it looks pretty cool, you can just tab these onto all of these clear pieces. And we'll get the other 2 out, and they just pop right off. No big deal. Do use a little caution just because the plastic you're working with is super thin up there. And anytime you're dealing with translucent plastic, you guys know to take a little extra caution. Alright, so we have that and that. Cat, get out of here. I have too many parts on the table. Get away. Alright, so we put those all in, and now we have the gun with the 4 dragoons, I think is what they're called, around it. So that's pretty cool. We'll go ahead and put that in his hand just because I like to show you guys things. That's the whole point of the video. So put the gun in the hand if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. The hands are softer plastic, but they're still not as soft as I would like. I don't think they're rigid enough to actually break, but it's still kind of a pain in the butt. But that's okay because they do hold well. Alright, so let's just put the gun in the hand so you can just get a feel for the size, or get an idea of the size. Alright, so big gun. It does weigh the arm down a little bit, but it shouldn't be too bad. Hopefully you can find a position where it'll hold it. It is a bit of a hassle though, so that's kind of a problem once you put those things on the front. So like I said, it looks kind of cool, but I don't know if I would recommend it. I would rather probably just keep them on the wings. So let's do that. Let's put them back on the wings and show you what the wings look like on the figure. And then I will put the whole thing together and show you what he looks like all buffed up. So I'm going to cut the video while I'm putting these back on so you don't have to watch me. Okay, finally I got the wings back on, so let's put the backpack on. So the wings just tab in. Like I said, there's 2 tabs, the 2 big tabs right there, so they hold on no problem. It's a nice and firm connection. And his waist isn't incredibly loose. Let's put his hand back on so he doesn't... Let's not use the hand I just threw on the floor. Let's use the hand. And we'll just use this hand, why not? That's why not. I can't get it out. I can never get anything out of these trays. Alright. There we go. Get on there. Alright, okay, there we go, finally. So now he's got his wings on. And like I said, his torso is not super loose, but the wings are quite heavy, so that's going to be a bit of an issue. You can see how big they are. They're really gigantic. Come on, this review is just falling apart, both literally and figuratively. Alright, the hand's on there now. Hopefully it stays. So what you're probably going to want to do is use a display stand to hold him up. I don't remember where his goes. Does it go? Yeah, it goes on his crotch. So you can do that, and I would recommend you do that because it's going to be really hard to balance him without the display stand, just because the wings are so massive. So what I would suggest is you use one of these stage 5 stands, and you can hold him up like that. It's still going to have some issues posing just because of how heavy the wings are, and the stands using an extension, as you can see. I was going to tell you not to do that, but I guess I can just show you. Don't probably use an extension because even if you tighten all the screws, the swivel itself is still kind of loose. So what I would suggest is just using the base stand. You can tighten this screw if you want to. Just make sure you don't really torque it down and bust it, because it will crack if you apply too much pressure. But that'll hold him up just fine. So that's probably the best way to do it if you want him in the air. Alright, let's fold the wings down so you can see what they look like, and then we can add all of the other parts to him. I'll leave the crotch piece in there so that we can put them all together later. So the wings, it's really simple to just fold them up. It's no big deal. Once you have them in hand, you can see the wings work really well. I just brain farted earlier when I was trying to put them all together. So what you're going to do is just bring this red hinge up. So watch out for these little guys. You don't want to bust those off as you're doing it. They're going to tuck in as you do that. So there you have it. There are the wings. You can bring them up all the way if you really want to, and tuck them in like that, but you probably don't want them at an angle, so just like that. And there you go with the wings, and so you can see how cool he looks with the beam saber handles in there, because that's how they look the best. I'll try to get these out of the tray and show you. I've always preferred the Gundams that had the beam saber handles showing like this. It's cool when they tuck away, but it's really cool when they're showing. So that's what he looks like that. So now I'm going to add all the forearm and leg and crotch pieces that he comes with, and shoulder pieces from the other phase, the Eclipse phase, and then you'll see what he looks like all decked out. I'm going to do that off camera because it takes a lot of time, and this is already a long video. Okay, so he now has everything on him almost, and I didn't put it on earlier because I didn't know if it was supposed to go on or not, so I wanted to save it for this part. You can put the thruster pack on with the wings. What you have to do is take the wings off of the backpack, leave the backpack on his back, combine the wings with the thruster pack, and then put it on. It'll all tap into place together, so you can use that too. And I did technically forget to swap out the knee pads with the lesser knee pads for the 2 standard phases. But, whatever, I'm not reshooting the whole video for some knee pads. Just imagine those white for the other parts of the video. Okay, and then there's one last thing to show you, and that is this clip right here. And this is what I was telling you earlier about the shield. You can put the shield on him, even with the big arm pads on. So what you want to do, I have too many things in my hands, is you can just put this on the shield first, or you can put it on his arm first. Just know that it should look like an L. If you put it on upside down, it'll be upside down, so don't do that. So let's see if I can do this now. So this just snaps on. You see those little white grooves? It should snap right into those. And hopefully we can do this without knocking everything apart. Be careful around these forearms. In fact, it's probably easier. Let's see if I can set him down. It's probably easier to snap this on and then put the forearm on all together. So this should go onto the little white parts without breaking anything. There we go. Cool. Alright, so that's on. So you'll want to put this back on his arm, of course. Snap that on, and snap this on. And holy baloney, that is one gigantic robot Damashii Gundam figure. You could give him his gun also, and then he is just completely decked out. wugged out. I think that's a phrase. I don't know if that's a phrase or not. If that's a phrase, you let me know if that's a phrase. If you use it, let me know if you use it and use it in a sentence. But so as you can see, it is just completely massive. I think this is unquestionably, even considering the Banshee and the Unicorn Gundam, this is without a doubt, in my opinion, the pinnacle of Robot Damashii excellence when it comes to the Gundam action figures, or even compared to the kits. Yeah, I know they're $200 and probably up, metal grades and perfect grades and master grades and all that stuff. But for the price, for the value, this is unbeatable, I think. It is just truly impressive. And even if you wanted to, even if you wanted to make it a little more impressive, you could even pop out his hand close quarters combat stuff on this side and just make him take up even more space and more impressiveness. So pop that all out. It comes out more too, but and there we go. That's probably good enough for the sake of the review. So you can, it's just, boy oh boy, it's impressive. It weighs like over a pound now probably. It's just massive, totally cool. It is super heavy, so let me clear out some space here. I just have parts all over the place. There's spare parts. So many different pieces for this guy. It's like doing a jigsaw puzzle. But that's okay. Let me put the thing back on him. Get that out of the way. And get that out of the way. And just stand him there. He can, or the stage 5 stand can hold him up, but he does weigh it down quite a bit. It's, like I said, it's just really, really massive. But so completely worth it. Let's get the camera down so you can get a better angle of it. And this is just probably the most boring pose ever. But for the sake of the review, I know I've already eaten up a ton of time. We're just going to leave it at that because it would just be posed forever and ever and ever. And especially with all these parts, like I keep saying like I said, but he does get bogged down a little bit by parts. So you're going to have to spend some time to get a good pose on him. But there he is, guys. There's the Extreme Gundam with the option parts. That's full burst mode with everything possible to put on him that you can put on him. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.